Welcome to another episode of The Heart of the Matter. Today I'm talking to Mrs. Olufunke Adio, and we're talking about modern parenting. Welcome, Olufunke, to The Heart of the Matter.
Thank you, sir.
As you know, and this is significant, a parent's success or failure as a parent can affect children many generations down the line, because as parents are, so are their children, and it just keeps on going. So it's very important to be a good parent. Olufunke, you've written a book called A Little Girl Inspires. Now this book is about your relationship with your younger daughter. Tell us about the book and about what inspired you to write it.
A Little Girl Inspires is actually a compilation of conversations I've had with my younger daughter, and it's a book I didn't think I was going to write, and that's because it came out from a journal, if you like. Yes, you know, ever since she could speak, I had been intrigued by a manner of speech. You know, either she's asking a question or she's just making jest, you know. So all of this conversation at some point began to trigger some train of thoughts in me. You know, sometimes it will remind me of a principle, you know, of life. Sometimes the principle of parenting. Sometimes, you know, it became a source of inspiration for me to write. You know, and then put all of them together, and then just...
This is your younger daughter.
This is my younger daughter.
So I assume you didn't have, not that there's anything wrong with your older daughter, but didn't she say things that you thought are noteworthy?
Oh, wow. She has a medical condition.
That's the older daughter?
The older daughter.
Okay.
So she isn't as verbal or as active as the younger one is. So basically that was how it all started. And then I would always want to relay each conversation to our father when he comes back. And then sometimes I will find out that, oh, I forget something. So I began to pen them, just to pen them down. And then before I realized, I had a booklet in my hands. And then I just decided to put it into a book and then share it with mothers and parents in general. Did
your husband
also
have this sort of experience that she said things to him that made him, wow, this is coming?
Oh, yes, he did. But basically because I'm around more with her, he doesn't have the same depth of experience or that I have had. I recall some day that he took her to the supermarket, and while they were going to the supermarket, there was this other man that was walking just directly opposite them. And he had a bad gait, as though maybe from an accident or something. You know, when my husband and herself moved closer to the man, she just stopped and then looked at the man and said, "Why is this one walking like this?" You would just fall down. Total stranger. So those are the kind of things, you know. So it's quite hilarious.
So what is it that she said? If you give me one or two instances of the things that she said that you found particularly noteworthy and you've shared with us in this book.
Oh, wow. One of the things that she said that I also featured in the book happened sometime when we were commuting to school together. And then, of course, there was a hold-up. And she said to me, I just wonder why cars don't fly, you know, implying that if cars did fly, we would not be stuck in this in this hold-up. So I said, wow. You know, from the surface, that sounds like, oh, just a careless remark or something. But it did trigger something in me. The fact that children can be very imaginative, and if we inspire and encourage them sufficiently, they can do great things. I feel like what she said is typical of what innovators would do. They would ask, why not? I mean, and it was interesting that the time that she made that statement, I'd actually come across an article online about a car that actually flies. You know, Terrafiga company or something that actually invented that machine. And the machine is such that you can actually fill it up at a gas station. Okay. And then it can actually fly from a runway, you know. So those are the kind of things I'm talking about. The fact that parents, even though they didn't grow up with the concept of having to be heard and to be listened to, I think the modern parents should be careful and deliberate at listening, you know, to those very little things that the children say, because if we don't shut them down and we inspire them sufficiently, they just might do great things. I mean, they are designed to do great things.
See, I remember my generation.
Yes.
You just didn't sit with adults. And it's changed. Now, yes. We're talking about modern parenting. Yes. And to talk about modern parenting, what has your relationship with your daughter taught you yes. about parenting children? Yes. Because I think it's such an important subject that we have a much better quality yes. of parenting than we have today. What are the things that you have learned?
I see that as a parent, our roles are beginning to change. Our parenting roles are beginning to evolve, and they will continue to evolve. And then I feel like parents need to be aware of that trend so that they are ready to do the needful.
Let's talk about some of this evolution yes. of parenting.
Yes.
Give me some instances.
It's interesting to note that technology is doing a lot
we used to play
right
with
now.
A box, a cardboard box, and
oh,
it became
wow.
a car, it became a
plane,
it became
and then the compound was big. The children could actually play in the compound. Not so much these days, you know. Technology is doing a lot right now. Everything that has to do with instant this, instant that is doing a lot.
iPads,
right now.
PlayStations.
You know. Yes, yes. So you find that just yesterday, let me give you an instance. I had this conversation with my daughter. Where we just started talking about clothing. Yeah. And she said to me, Mommy, do you know that men prefer clothes that are transparent? I said, wow. I said, okay, you know, just to get more from her. She said, yes, you know, when a lady wears a transparent skirt and a transparent top, the men will stop and then we'll do like this. I said, wow, okay, go on. So I decided to ask her because it's not something like she gets exposed to in the house. Yeah. And I asked her, so how did you come to this conclusion? And she said to me that during now in her house spot, there was a girl that brought her iPad to the event. And then she had this game on her iPad. And I said, okay, games are supposed to be like, you know, fun stuff. And so how did it come to you observing and realizing that men love scantily dressed ladies? And she said to me, she said, well, there was a game on the iPad that actually had a situation where the children can select different dresses and accessories for a lady. And then what happened in that game was that if the child puts on a scanty kind of transparent thing on the lady, the men in the video game will begin to cheer and begin to salivate. Oh, wow. So to me, that was, what? You know, so right there, they already have that exposure, you know. So you find that as a parent, your job is continuous in terms of having to process the information that they are getting from technology now, and from games, and from all of those things that has become a part and parcel of everyday life, you know. So my job, I feel, as a parent in this modern time, is not so much as in just giving what to do, saying what not to do, but also helping to process, to clarify, you know, all this information that they're getting from.
So you've got to be
sources.
in a position as a parent where your child, there's communication, where your child doesn't hesitate to communicate with you.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back in a moment. Viewers, stay tuned to The Heart of the Matter, where we're talking to Mrs. Olufunke Adio about modern parenting. See you in a moment. Welcome back to The Heart of the Matter, where we're talking to Mrs. Olufunke Adio about modern parenting. Now, we say modern parenting because in the past, when I was parented, my teachers used to apply the cane. And the scripture says, spare the rod and spoil the child. But modern parents don't cane their children. And I remember if I was punished at school and then I went home and said, oh, a teacher caned me, yes, I would get asked, what did you do? Because the assumption was you must have done something, a teacher is not going to cane you for nothing. And if I was guilty, I could get a second punishment. So I never ever would go home and say I was punished at school. But today's children get punished at school and their parents are at school the next day fighting with the teachers. What's your take on disciplining a child? We know we have to discipline children. What's your take on it?
It's amazing the fact that some parents would let their child or children do any and everything and they just get away with it. And then down the line, the child grows into adulthood being very, no boundaries, no rules, nothing, and then they turn the society upside down, and then we wonder, what did we do wrong? We need to start being very deliberate about what we do and how we do these things, especially when it comes to discipline. It's amazing that, and it's very heartbreaking what you said about parents taking on teachers, about them disciplining the young ones. It's just in every way wrong. Parents do these things because, well, they think they want to make their children happy. Parents have, in this day and time, they have made happiness a goal. Okay, but being happy is not a goal in itself. It's an offshoot of something. It's an offshoot of living right and doing the right thing, being a blessing to others. So I think we need to reappraise the whole thing going on as part, parents discipline their children. I featured a story in the book about this, where my daughter felt at some point in time that I was spanking her a little bit too much, just a little bit too much. So she took the case to her daddy and said, is it true? Just complaining and complaining. And then her daddy sat her down and gave her a lecture on discipline, and that even God recommends that a child be spanked if the need, really they do arise.
You know, I'm speaking as an expert now.
Yes.
I became an expert as a child at playing my parents against each other. Okay.
Oh my God, they do that a lot.
Now, but here's an important thing for the modern parent. Yes. The children are smart.
Oh wow.
And they're going to play parents against each other.
Yes.
How do you and your husband present a common front to your children?
Oh well, parenting is not like something you learn how to do all at once. But then we know as grown-ups, as adults, and as God's children that there are principles in life. And then we continue as best as we can to be on the same side. And if, in the case of having to try or attempt to play us around, if my husband is not clear as to what I had said, he would not give any feedback to her until we had, checked our pages and we're on the same page, and then we can revert. So these are the kind of things going on. Sometimes she would come home and say, my teacher did this, my teacher did that, expecting sometimes that you will just pick up your phone and then dial the teacher's number, and then, but it doesn't work that way. You have to learn that whatever you do, there are consequences. Parents no longer teach consequences.
There's also the fact that we have a responsibility to inculcate values in our children.
Yes.
So how does the modern parent go about making sure their children grow up?
Yes.
My mother would twist our ears and say honesty is the best policy. Yes. So we knew that lying, stealing, cheating, they were wrong. Yeah. But it doesn't seem as if that's quite what's happening in this generation of parents.
I absolutely agree with you on that. We have come to a place in society where the concept of right and wrong no longer exists, or at least is fading away. This has been the norm in advanced climes, but I see that it is actually seeping into our community, our world where we are. The idea of removing the concept of right and wrong says there's nothing to look up to. There are no standards to stretch to live up to. So if anything feels good, you do it. So if you're inconvenienced in any way, you get rid of whatever is causing that inconvenience, So I think we need to make a U-turn now on this.
This is what I'm thinking. My parents, I think they did a good job, okay? I'm wondering, am I doing a better job?
Oh, wow.
What do you think of modern parents? Use yourself as an example.
Yes.
We're not going to say our parents didn't do well,
okay.
but are you improving on what your parents did, or have you fallen back on what they did?
Okay.
I want modern parents to be able to hear and ask themselves these important questions, so that we can actually determine whether we need to do more.
Interesting to note that times have changed. And so sometimes when we want to put ourselves, we want to just suppose what we are doing compared to what our parents did, it may not so much be appropriate. Okay? So you want to say, okay, what has changed? And how can I parent better under the circumstances that I find myself? Okay, when we were growing up, we didn't have what
you could walk on a bus, you could go on a bus, you could walk on the street.
And then we didn't have entertainment the way we have it right now. So you find that today, for children, everything has to be entertainment. Whatever they do, you have to have some form of entertainment from it. And there's a danger in that, because when a child sees everything that's supposed to bring to him some form of gratification or entertainment, then the idea of being still, is alien to that child.
I remember my children when they were younger saying to me things like, I'm not having any fun.
Oh my God.
That
And do you know, sir, the way they use boring these days? They say, oh, this is boring. Oh, that is boring. My daughter came to 2 days ago, I think, and then she walked into the sitting room and said to us, myself and her dad, she said, hey, everybody, that's the way she says. Everybody, I have an announcement, and it's a big one. Okay, an announcement, what's it all about? So she said when she gets to JSS 3 in her present school, she would have to make a move to some other school. Then she mentions the name of the school. And they said to me, okay, when we said to her, so what are your reasons? Why would you want to do this? She said, some of the teachers are boring. Okay, and they use that word so frequently. I actually hear that word. So that is the kind of environment that they are right now. That is the world that they live in. And then as parents, we need to begin to be deliberate about instilling some of the age-long values in them. Otherwise, we may lose them. Yes, we may lose them.
I think we've lost a lot of them.
Oh,
and they're only the oasis of parents that are actually doing a good job. There's not too many out there.
Sadly.
Sad as it may sound, we have children, their character is normally developed by the time they're 10 years old. So we've got those first 10 years. But in those first 10 years, parents are really concerned about how to keep food on the table. Is there a balance that you need to strike between work and all that? And you know, sometimes it's summer, because you hear children say, I'm going for summer this year, as if it's a right, it's an entitlement. What are your views on those?
It's imperative that, you know, these days there are a lot of seminars going on parenting, how to be a better parent. But we find that sometimes these things become just mere information. And then if we don't go back and say to ourselves that I need to be deliberate about this, I want to really do this. So we find that every time we'll have to count. Every conversation that you have counts and should be an opportunity to impart something to that child. I mean, like the conversation I referred to earlier about the dressing thing and all that. The way I ended that conversation was to say to my daughter, I said, but I thank God for you, because you know that this is not the way to be. This is actually the wrong thing. So what I've done in just that instance of conversation is want to listen to her. I had to listen to what she had to say. And I'm so thankful that I listened to that conversation. There was no way I would have known that she had such a picture, you know, in her mind. So you listen. And then, truth, we don't have all the time these days. Times have so much changed that there's so much pressure on the parents, and time has become such a scarce commodity.
So one important point for our viewers is that they must listen. Because there's sometimes they cut you off before you finish.
They must maximize time. You know, the time that they have, they should make sure that they're imparting something. You know, that they're communicating whatever principles they hold dear themselves and transferring the same to their children.
Now, you know, have you got some tips for our parents on modern parenting?
Okay.
You know, just give us a few tips, some of the things that you think of.
Something that is very, that I feel very strongly about is something I'd already mentioned about happiness not being a goal. Okay. Yes, we are exposed a lot these days to reality TV, and then what you find in many of these programs is that you have parents who are raising very dysfunctional children because they themselves are dysfunctional. I think most of the time the reason why we are not bold enough to train these children is because we really don't have the moral justification to do that. We feel we ourselves have issues that we have not dealt with. So we feel, hey, I can't say do as I do because, hey, I'm not doing, you know, what I should be doing. So I think parents need to know that they are in this for the long haul. And the whole idea is to develop the child for the future, to develop the child to be a well-rounded, matured adult. When we train for the short term, that is when happiness becomes a huge thing to us. When we train for the long haul, then we know that, okay, there could be pain. You deal with it. You know, there could be, see, life is not straight. And the earlier we learn that, the better.
Just talking about following that trend of thought.
Yes.
Overindulgence.
Oh, wow.
I know one young man, I've heard of one young man whose parents had sent him to school in Canada and sent him a hefty amount of pocket money every month. Always flies first class. Wow. So much so that he told his colleagues that they make the walk of shame when they board an aircraft. You know, so flying economy is a shame. My generation of parents, my parents' generation, taught us or never shielded us from realities. I remember one day my father went to see one of his friends, and his friend's son had been suspended from school for stealing a math set or something like that. And so my father, you know, we went together, and my father driving home said to me, if you need anything, ask. If I can't afford to give it to you, I will tell you, but never ever steal. Don't take something that doesn't belong to you. But it's not happening in this generation. Kids are coming home from school with other people's things, and when their parents don't even know what they've got in their bag. Okay, so where is the line when it comes to overindulging a child? Is it okay to even if you can afford it, to fly your child first class and so on?
Well, we know that parents do this, and most parents would know that they are trying to compensate for something that they do not, they've not been able to do for the children. The fact that they do this doesn't make it right, because they're not parenting for the long haul. They're not, when they overindulge. Because there's a saying that says, prepare the child for the path, not the path for the child. When we overindulge, we're actually preparing the path for the child. But we know that the child is going to grow into an adult someday, and then the parents will be gone. And then you find the fact that when we overindulge these people, then these children, their expectations are warped. Their expectations are so warped that they begin to demand certain things from life, which is not really reality. So we find that these are the kind of children that they're so emotionally, how would I put this, emotionally imbalanced, and they would go to a school and they spray the rest of their colleagues and their fellow, because it's something that the parents ought to be doing that they're not doing.
Now, I think you said prepare the child for the path.
Yes.
Now I think maybe, and we're all probably guilty of this, we're looking at the child. We're not looking beyond the child to the child's children, and that child's children. Because somehow, what you do with your child is likely to be repeated by your child with his child or her child, and so on. So that you're really talking about generations, now, I just quickly want to mention something to do with your book, A Little Girl Inspires, is about your younger daughter who's said so many inspiring things, and you put them down, and I'm sure the parents will enjoy reading this. And then you've done some fun stuff. We talked about some children getting access to iPads, and because of the iPads, they learn things they shouldn't be learning. I've also listened to children listening to music, and some of the music we allow our children to listen to is wrong. Okay, but here is wholly fun for the kids. So if parents, you want to get some of this stuff, it's really beautiful. Just get in touch with Mrs. Olufunke Adio, and she'll tell you how to get in touch with them. Her contact details will be on the screen. Olufunke, it's been fun having you on the Heart of the Matter.
Thank you for
Unfortunately, time has run out, and so we have to end now. But thanks ever so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. Viewers, we've had fun bringing this episode to you. We hope that it helps you to be a better parent than you were. We'll be back again next week with another episode of The Heart of the Matter. Until then, stay blessed.